discussed. All right, so welcome to tonight's lesson. So this is just an introduction to the course. Okay, this is just an introduction to material science. Yeah, so let me say this, I've already talked about this in the previous two sessions that we've had in statics and mathematics. So these are just some of the details that you're supposed to use to send the payments. Yeah, so of course the lessons are not free. Yeah, because if I say the lessons are free, there was a time I started conducting free lessons. People were not concentrating. I was teaching myself. But from the time I started charging these 100 kwacha, at least people have been concentrating. And from the people that I've taught so far, I think I've only recorded, I think if not two, then one. Yeah, if not two, then just one. There was just a lady who texted me that she carried one course from the courses that I was helping her with. Yeah. But otherwise, most of the people that I take in all these lessons, they always clear. You can just try to ask around. Okay, it's not only Mulungushi University. I also take other people from South Africa, from Apex, from Botswana, from different universities. Yeah, it's not just Mulungushi University that I teach. All right, so even at UNZA and CBU, I have students that I was teaching there. Zambia Open University too. All right, so these are the lines that you're supposed to use if in case you want to send the payments, you want to join the lessons. All right, so let's move on to the contents. Yeah, so material science. So material science is basically just a course that talks about materials and how to apply them. The contents that are in materials, the properties of those materials that makes them fit to do a particular or to be used in a particular way. Yeah, so when you are designing a machine or when you're designing a shaft, for instance, you don't just use any material. You need to select the correct material depending on the load that that shaft is going to be having. Yeah, so you have to know how to select proper materials, and you have to know the properties of those materials and the reason why you're selecting those materials. So these are the things that we're going to discuss in this course. So we'll start first by classifying materials. Then after classification of materials, look at the atomic structures and interatomic bonding. So these things are some of the things that you discussed in chemistry, in your first year, but these will be a bit detailed rather. Okay, so we have this topic also. We're going to discuss the structure of the crystalline solid. So we have to know what is in the solid, how the particles are arranged in the solid, and also look at unit cell. So apart from this, okay, let me say this is one of the important part of this course, and you have to understand it and know what it means when we talk about the structure of a crystalline. Yeah, so I'm going to explain everything when we begin to learn. Yeah, so we look at crystallographic points and directions and planes. So this is one of the topics that confused me a lot when I was in my second year. I just came to understand this topic properly when I was in my fourth year. We had this course, we had this topic in one of our courses with Dr. Mwendo. So that's the period when I began to understand what was behind this topic. Otherwise, you need to concentrate and you need someone who knows what he's teaching to explain this topic to you. Yeah, you don't just need any person to just begin to point out things. You get confused. Yeah, so I am going to explain things. I'm going to explain what I know about this topic, and what is in the book, and I'll also give you some exercises that will help you to understand the point coordinates, the crystallographic directions, the planes, the linear and planar densities. Yeah, so I'm going to explain all this when we reach this topic. So it's also a very simple course, except that it has a lot of notes. Calculations in this course are a few. There's a lot of explaining. Yeah, let me say, yeah, there's a lot of explaining in this course. Except this topic. On this topic, you'll be required to draw some structures. Yeah. Then from there, we're going to discuss imperfection of solids. Yeah, so look at the point defects and also look at the miscellaneous imperfections. Then we discuss the catalysts. Okay, most of these things you did them in chemistry and also part of physics. Yeah, but we're going to, I'm just going to consider as if you've not done any of these things, and we'll discuss them together. Then we'll look at microscopic examination, look at diffusion, and apart from that, we'll look at aluminum for integrated circuit and interconnects. So we'll look at this and discuss, we'll make sure that at least before we move to the next topic, at least you understand what is in the previous topic. Okay. So we'll also move on and discuss mechanical properties of metals, which I believe most of these, I believe you did in physics. If you remember, there's a part that you discussed, which was elastic deformation. I don't know if you discussed this plastic deformation, but if you look at stress and strain behavior, you discussed this. So this is a part where we're going to have some of, let me say, a bit of some calculations, things that you already know. The stress, strain, the tensile stress rather. Okay, in elastic, okay, we're going to discuss this, and I believe you already have ideas on this topic, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, because the formulas that we'll be using here are the same formulas that you use in physics. Nothing will change, except for, I think, volumetric strain. I don't know if you did it in physics, but that will also be discussed in this course, and particularly on this topic. Yeah, apart from that, we look at property variability and design. Yeah, so on this part, this is where we're going to look at the safety factors. Then we look at dislocations and strengthening. So this is also part of material science. Then we'll begin to discuss materials. And then we'll look at recovery, recrystallization, and grain growth. So all these is part of material science. We're going to discuss this. Okay, material science is a bit bulky, so I'm not even sure if we're going to manage to finish all the topics, but I just pray that we finish, or at least we push a bit. Yeah, but it consists of a lot of notes, meaning there'll be a lot of explaining every time I'm going to be teaching. And then we look at failures, fatigue, creep, we look at all these things. And apart from that, we look at phase diagrams, binary phase diagrams, we look at materials, still under materials of importance, we look at lead-free sodas. So, okay, it consists of a lot of notes, yeah, with a few calculations, of course. Yeah, but all these other three courses that I introduced, they are, I think, almost throughout calculations, because statics is calculations throughout. Then you have mathematics calculations, electronics and electricity calculations, and then material science. Material science involves, it has a lot of notes, yeah. And then there's also drawing, which involves drawing. Where you need a drawing board, pencils, and of course, you don't just use any pencil. You need to know the type of pencil that is needed for a particular line. Okay, I'm going to teach you all that if at all I'm going to manage to buy the instruments. So we have compounds, which is also going to be discussed in this same course. Then the ion-carbon system, we'll discuss this in this course. Then from there, we'll look at phase transformations, where we'll discuss the development of microstructure and alterations of mechanical properties. That is phase transformation. That is under phase transformation, rather. Then we'll also discuss the microstructure and property changes in iron and carbon alloys. So all these things will be discussed. Yeah, of course, I'm just going to be explaining. Yeah. Then we'll look at applications and processing of metal alloys. So under this topic, we'll look at the types of metal alloys and fabrication of metals. Yeah, so we'll continue by looking at structures and properties of ceramics, and we'll look at carbon nanotubes. We'll discuss mechanical properties. That's why we're going to look at the brittle fracture of ceramics, stress and strain behavior, and then we'll look at mechanisms of plastic deformation, and then miscellaneous of mechanical considerations. Okay, so apart from that, we'll also discuss the types and application of ceramics. So you also need to understand what a ceramic is. So before all these things, I'll introduce what a ceramic is and also give you examples, of course, and how it's made. Yeah. And then we'll look at piezoelectric ceramics, fabrication and processing of ceramics. We'll discuss all these, like I said. And then from there, after ceramics, we'll look at polymers. So under polymers, we'll look at the structures, the hydrocarbon molecules, polymer molecules, the chemistry of polymer molecules, molecular weight, molecular shape, molecular structure, molecular configuration, up to diffusion in polymeric materials. Then after that, we'll look at the mechanical behavior of polymers. Then we'll look at mechanisms of deformation and for strengthening of polymers. And apart from that, we'll look at crystallization, melting, and glass transformation phenomena in polymers. Then apart from that, also move on to look at the phenolic billiard balls, yeah. Then apart from that, look at polymer synthesis and processing. Okay. Okay, like I said, we have a lot to cover, more especially in material science. There are a lot of notes in this course. Yeah, so this calls for seriousness. Okay, so the other topic that we discuss is particle reinforced composites. Yeah. Then apart from that, fiber reinforced composites, look at structural composites. Yeah, so we have a lot to cover. Then from that, we look at corrosion of metals, then corrosion of ceramic materials, degradation of polymers as well. And apart from that, we discuss electrical conduction. So this is under electrical properties of the same ceramics, polymers that I'm just talking about. So look at the dielectric behavior, look at the other electrical characteristics of materials. That's why we'll look at the ferroelectricity and piezoelectricity. So I'm going to explain this when we reach this part. Okay, so apart from that, we look at the thermal properties of materials, that is heat capacity and thermal expansion, which you did, I think, in both physics and chemistry. And then we'll look at the invar and other low expansion alloys. Then apart from that, we'll look at the magnetic properties of materials. Yeah, so we have a lot to cover in material science. It has a lot of notes, like I said. Then apart from that, we'll look at the optical properties of materials. And we'll discuss all these down here. Then after that, we'll look at the economic, environmental, and social issues in material science and engineering. I think this should be the last topic. Yeah, so this is the last topic. That was the last topic in material science. So before we can call it a day tonight, if you have any questions, you can simply unmute yourself, ask, I'll explain. In case you missed something or you came in late and you have questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask, and I'm going to explain to you. So in the last, let me say in the last 1 or 2 minutes, I'm going to allow questions if at all there's any. You can just unmute yourself. The same way you're going to unmute yourself is the same way you're going to be asking questions when I begin to teach. As I'm teaching, if you have not understood anything, you're free to raise your hand or to simply unmute yourself and ask. Then I'll go back and explain so that you understand. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. All right, so like I said, all the videos are going to be recorded and sent to the group. So every lesson that we're going to have will be recorded and sent to the group. Yeah, so that those that will be missing lessons for some reasons, of course, they should have time or they should have something to use for revision. And if there's any exercise at the end, they should, if there's any exercise at the end of the lecture, they should at least have access to that and solve it. All right, thank you very much for attending tonight's lesson. My name is Harmtedy. See you in the next lesson that we are going to have, which is statics, and that is tomorrow. Shalom, shalom.